People of Earth, we come in peace.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Max World Live. Max World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Max World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Max World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
6 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock, on the 18th day of February in the Lord's year 2016. If only we didn't have any commercials, but we took breaks and we left the microphones on. The things you would discover about Chris Roloff.
Hey, what?
Things you discover about everybody. All right.
I'm the same on mic as I am off mic.
Sure. So you're an ISIS supporter off mic.
I'm not an ISIS supporter. Either place.
Yeah, you are, because you don't think Apple should have to turn over the codes to bust into their phones to find out where the ISIS bad guys are.
Are we going to talk about this again, or are you
Well, no,
just
I'm
going to
just
throw
telling
things
you.
at me?
You are. That means you support ISIS.
Okay, here's just a little fact.
You know, I do have a guest here. So, but just go ahead.
See how he does this?
Yeah,
You got to clear
I don't
your-
have time to say anything.
No, you can talk. Todd, is it okay if we take a little from
I'm
your
enjoying
time?
this. Go for it.
Isn't
All
it
right, so
fascinating?
Mr. ISIS supporter, tell us why that's not true.
So here, I don't.
You support Apple to not have to open up their phones to the FBI,
Yes, I support Apple's freedom and right to not have to open up
which
their
supports
phones.
ISIS.
It does not.
I
But-
support a woman's right to choose, but I don't like abortion.
Apple has been famous historically for a really long time. Their computers have had little to no virus attacks up until just recently. They were sort of famous for that because everything that they do is proprietary, right?
Use big words.
If you have a Microsoft computer, that's what you're using. You get viruses all the time. One of the things that made Apple really famous was that they weren't hacked.
Okay.
And this kind of stuff would make their products more susceptible to hacking and to viruses and
Why?
things like that.
Why? Here, let me explain something to you.
Are you a programmer?
Okay, yeah, I am. I did country music. I did alternative music. So here's the phone. Here, I'm holding in my hands. For those of you folks on the radio.
But that's not an iPhone. It's not an Apple product.
We're pretending.
Oh, okay. Hold mine.
Oh, okay.
Less lies that way.
I'm holding the ISIS terrorists in San Bernardino's phone.
Okay?
Okay? You're Cook. You're the big guy at Apple.
Yes.
Okay? I'm going to hand you this phone. Reach out your hand. I'm going to hand you this phone and say, will you unlock that phone and so I can get into it? Just that phone, Mr. Cook.
Right.
Okay.
I love that analogy because
Why?
that's not what's happening.
Well, no.
The federal government isn't saying, I want you to hack that phone. The federal government is saying, I want you to create a software that allows the federal government to hack all Apple products.
No, that's not what they're saying.
That is.
That's not what they're saying.
Read the article that you read. It is not about getting into one single phone. It is about developing software to hack iPhones.
The Pope doesn't like Trump. The Pope's call
The
Trump
Pope
a
agrees with
liar.
Chris.
Trump is going to sue. Here we go. Smartphone users beware. Apple's fight with the FBI over breaking into terrorist iPhones.
Not a single terrorist.
Terrorist iPhones.
What if you're a terrorist? What if you become a terrorist? What if they decide that you're a terrorist? They
You
have
keep
to be
talking
able
like
to
this,
bring-
I'm going to become a terrorist.
Yes, I know that.
They could have ripple effects that challenge the security of personal devices. That's what Apple says. The FBI, Steve Healy, FBI security architect, says the only thing we need the Apple to do is to hack into the terrorist phone to see if we can get any more ISIS connections, unquote.
Now, Army Brad says, no, Chris, that is not what was in the order.
Thank Thank you, Army Brad. General Army security person Brad Army.
If I heard the story right, they was wanting in a particular phone.
They were wanting.
They wanted in the FBI wanted into a particular phone.
Correct.
The terrorist phone. They
Yes.
wasn't talking about they wanted in everybody's phone. They wanted in
Right.
a specific phone.
Frank's
and
right.
Apple is enlarging that scope of that argument to say everyone's phone.
Frank's right.
That's right.
You're wrong.
Now,
So
Max,
what do you got to say for you now, Mr. Plaid Shirt?
So when Mac agrees with me, you're in trouble.
That's true.
but all they want to do is hack into the one terrorist phone. They
And
don't
that's
want,
all they
that's
need.
all they want.
That's all they need.
And Cook is turning it into this big deal about a privacy thing. He just doesn't want to help American FBI. He's a communist.
So if that's true, Chris, that's all they want. Let's assume that's true.
Yeah.
And they're right. God help us. Let's assume that's true. What would be difference? What's the difference in that and then the FBI examining evidence on a crime scene? Would you say they shouldn't go through a criminal's house or their other possessions? Wouldn't that be the same principle that if a crime's been committed, there's evidence, and this gentleman can speak to that even better. Wouldn't that be evidence?
Right. There
is evidence.
There is the issue of the evidence, but
Go, Todd, go. Go.
but what we're failing.
Go, Todd, go. Go. Go.
But what we have to look at here, and I think that Apple is bringing up, I would assume, is that this.
Oh,
isn't,
here we go.
this,
assuming, you know what that makes
this
you
isn't
and
as
me out of.
simple as saying we're just going to look at this phone, right? Currently, Apple doesn't have the programming, right? The ability to do that right now. It's not something they're.
You're telling me that Apple doesn't know how to break their own software.
Okay, there's a lot of issues. Which one do we want to talk about?
First, my ADH. I'm just really drives me crazy.
It's difficult to have any conversation. So, but what Apple's claim is, okay, well, at least say it's their claim, right? Apple's claim is that they can't get into the iPhone right now as it speaks, so that they have to develop encryption software in order to do that. The development of the encryption software becomes then a thing that exists. Even if they're going to only use it on one phone, the development of that software then becomes a security risk because we've now created software that could fall into the wrong hands and to fall into someone else's use to get into anybody else's phone. And again, I go back to saying that historically, Apple has been, because they're a proprietary type company, something I don't like, so I don't have a lot of Apple products. I don't like that they're proprietary in that way. But that's kept their products secure from bugs and from viruses and from hacking because they keep that stuff really locked down. And it's antithetical to what Apple wants to do. So that's number one. Number two, I think the other issue here is the federal government is trying to force a private entity into doing something that they should have the right not to do. Now, you could say if the federal government wanted to, they could press charges against Apple and say you're impeding an investigation, that's a whole other thing.
They got a subpoena from a judge. A judge issued a subpoena.
What did you say the other day, Chris, about something about you're only allowed 3 attempts, and the FBI has already tried 2, and if they do a third, all the information is lost, is why they feel it's very urgent that they go to Apple and get this done?
I think Bob mentioned that. That's a way that you can set your iPhone if you have like passwords on it.
Well, what they want to do, I saw a little graphic on this, so they showed me, so I know. What they want to do is they want them to unlock that. It's locked out now. And then they want to put a program on it, which tries all the different combinations to unlock the phone, and eventually it'll unlock the phone. That's all they want. It's all they want.
Okay,
but it's Americans like you.
No, it's not
protect
Americans
the
like
terrorists.
me. It's American. Why is this about the rhetoric of it being about terrorism, though, Mac? That's just the terrorism.
I hope
stuff.
Trump sues you.
Man,
All right, let's go to the
I couldn't
phones
afford that. That
where
would be-
Paul is standing by, because you can call us anytime you want at 515-240. No, I'm sorry,
Paul's gonna agree
244.
with me. Paul's going to agree with me.
You think so?
I'm hoping.
I'll bet you. What do you want to bet? I'll bet you. If I'm right, you have to eat a Butterfinger on the air.
All right, Paul.
244-0077. Paul, what you say? You're live in Mac's World.
Well, if you guys listen, he didn't own the cell phone. The cell phone is not his. It belongs to the county and to the state of California.
Oh, because he works for him.
it doesn't make a difference. That was issued item. It's just like when I was in the military. Anything that was issued to me was not mine. I had to give it back when I was done with my contract. His contract was finished when he caught around by one of the policemen, but the product now is owned by the state. Now, the state's asking to have this opened up. Now, that being said, Apple can work with the police department to make the software to open up that phone, even just like it is if it was a landline. They could open up all the information and turn all the information that they receive out of that phone to the FBI without having the FBI deal with any of the software or anything like that. They can do that. That's like doing a landline and going and getting your phone records and stuff from any other phone service, whatever.
So, Paul, who would you say is correct then? Mr. Roloff or Mr. McCoy?
Both you guys are right.
Yay! We all get a Butterfinger.
Low information voters.
Well, hey, wait a minute here.
All right, Paul, but you're right, Paul. You're right. This is the state asking Apple to do something for them, and Apple refuses to do it.
Apple could make the software and make that proprietary software for them. The fear is that somebody, once they find that software and create it, somebody will steal it.
Right.
That's the issue.
Right, and that's
kind of like the movie back in the 80s called Sneakers.
Right.
Made this,
I like that movie.
Yeah, that's kind of the same process. That's the fear they got.
Right, Paul, and that's because that's the claim that Apple's making, right, is that they don't currently have the technology to get into the phone, so they would have to develop it in order to do that. Is that correct?
Correct. You start working on encrypted stuff, it can go in a vast number of different directions on that. Get into government agencies you don't even want to be involved with, because a lot of these things are encrypted much the same way. Everybody has their own little different process how they do the programming on that, and they make it sole proprietary. But if cell phones are open to everybody, so that's kind of the issue.
All right, Paul, I very much appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you going out on a limb and telling Chris he's wrong. Thank you very much. All right, well, we've eaten up the first portion of our program with this silliness, but when we come back, Pastor Todd Stiles from First Family Church, we're going to talk about his recent mission trip to Nepal and more. That's coming up next, live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
21 minutes after 4 o'clock, 4:21 on the 18th day of February. Chris has promised not to talk any more politics so we can actually get to our guest, Todd Stiles, with First Family Church in Ankeny, which is just east of the Veridian Credit Union right there on Highway 6569. Now, Paul, you have just come back from Nepal.
Todd,
what did I say?
Paul called. I'm here live.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I call him yesterday?
Ted.
Hey, get out of your phone.
You called him Ted.
I am researching things I'm not supposed to be.
Tell me where Nepal is, Todd.
I think Nepal is just a little bit north of India, maybe south of China. Is that correct? Maybe a better geography person here could.
So kind of a Southeast Asia type of a thing?
It is.
Okay. And what's the makeup of the Christian church over there?
I'm sure it's probably less than 2%. Well, I'm pretty sure it's less than 2%. It's probably less than 1%.
Okay.
Traditionally, a majority of it is Hindu.
Is this where Mr. Nesbitt went to?
No.
No, okay. All right. So what was your purpose in going over there?
Well, personally, I'm a big believer in nationals reaching their own countries, just like we do here in America. I think other nationals can do that. And so training them for that purpose is something I have personal interest in. I want to see what's happening in those areas, have some friends over there. And so we visited several training schools. They call them training centers. But you can't think like America. You know, they're maybe under a tree. They're in a closet-sized room on the top of a 5-story tower. It's very small, no lights, just cracked windows and doors, no chairs, their own floors. So there's just these all over villages in Nepal and India. And there's, 5, 10, 15 people in there who are in training. You could say our words would be being discipled over a 2-year period to go out then and engage other villages and cultures in order to plant churches and see more folks come to Christ. When there's just, India's got over 1 billion people in that one place.
Yeah,
there's people everywhere.
And according to government data, Christian followers in Nepal accounts for about 1.4% of the population.
1.4%. All right.
Now, when you hear that, you think you can't find them. But what I was interested in seeing is how easily will we find them. And granted, they knew we were coming, but they have a vision there of planting, thousands and thousands of churches, and this is owned by hundreds of pastors who have a strategy to go to every village in Nepal. It is amazing to see the power that's being displayed over there by the Lord in mobilizing those people who live there. It's incredible. And so I would say more is happening than less, even though the percentages seem to say nothing's happening. There's a lot happening in Nepal.
Pastor Todd Stiles is my guest, First Family Church. Now, you have what time are your services in Ankeny?
In Ankeny, it's 8:30 and 10:30.
All right. And then you have Bondurant.
And they meet at 10 o'clock now at Morris Elementary.
Morris Elementary. Okay. Tell me what it feels like to be in Nepal. Is it like being in downtown Des Moines? Is it like being in a rural community in the sticks in the southern part of the United States? Or is it that nightmare we see only on television where there's cows running down the street? And
Well, Nepal's got lots of cows in the city.
Because they're sacred and you can't kill them.
Not just that, they're also very utilitarian. Cows are like a vehicle, and so they're functional.
Okay.
There is a worship aspect in regards to reincarnation, but one thing I learned was that, the cows there just provide a lot of transportation for things they carry. They'll hook a cart to a couple of cows, an ox or whatever, and without that, they wouldn't be able to load all their stuff and carry it.
Do they have horses?
Some do, very rarely.
Donkeys?
And remember, I have a limited perspective, all right? But it seems like most people have cows, and there are a few donkeys, maybe very few horses.
So when you traveled from place to place, were you in a car?
We were in a car.
Was it a taxi?
No, we just had, we hired a driver, and then he had a car, so I guess you could call it a taxi.
Okay.
It's very crowded. So let me answer your question. What's it like? If you take 100 Iowa farms and put them in a 1 block
radius.
That's what it feels like in the cities. And that would be India and Nepal. Now, I'm no experts. I don't want anybody listening thinking I'm this expert. But my experiences there indicate that the conditions are so crowded you can't explain it.
Wow.
They have lines on the road. No one listens to them. You drive anywhere you want. As long as when you pass, you're on the left side, it's opposite of us.
Okay.
But there are no laws and rules on the road that people follow.
Speed limits?
It doesn't matter. You really can't go in that fast because it's so crowded. But if you took 100 farms and all their animals and put them in a 1 block radius, that's what it felt like.
Okay.
I've never.
So very crowded, not
very crowded.
rural
and
at
animals
all.
are everywhere. Everywhere. Now, that's not so much true in Delhi because it's very city, so folks don't have a lot of the room to hold a cow. But in Nepal, I mean, it's like cows there are like pets for us.
Okay.
Everybody's got one almost.
They got one
amazing.
named Picasso and Coco. All right, Pastor Todd Stiles is my guest from First Family Church. Ankeny services 8:30 and 10:30, and now in Bondurant at Morris Elementary at 10 a.m.
Yeah, Todd had a question. It borders on China.
Todd.
Okay, so
I'm just telling you. You called him
Todd.
Ted.
So it's south.
So it's south of China, but I was wondering, do you see then Asian people mixed?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, being on the border, I would imagine you would see that. Okay.
Now, if 1.4% is Christian, what are the other 98.6%?
Well, officially, Bob can probably tell us. I think there's probably going to be mainly Hindu.
Okay.
And then you're going to probably have some maybe mainliners in there. I'm not sure if that's even a percentage or not. Bob, you got any stats on that?
Well, there are Buddhists. I know. I saw that. I had that here up before. I'm looking for it now.
Is there a difference between a Buddhist and a Hindu?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant. Is there?
Yeah.
Is that as different as Catholic and Presbyterian, or is that as different as Catholic and Muslim?
Well, they're both going to be polytheistic, which means multiple gods.
Okay.
Yeah, Buddhists, 10.7%. We also have, of course, the Hindus. Let me see what the percentage is on the Hindus. Okay, let me get there. 87%.
Okay,
all right,
yeah.
so it's basically Hindu.
Right.
Now, who can tell me what Hindu is? I have no idea.
They believe in reincarnation. I don't know if I can explain it well, but they also believe in that, the worship of many gods. There's over 30 million Hindu gods.
Oh, my.
I would say it's very synchronistic. Like there could be a Hindu that believes in no gods. There could be a Hindu that believes in 1,000 gods, or one that believes in every god. They'll place them on the dash of their car in their house, and they pray to these gods for various things.
Hindus are not a race. It's a religion.
It is, but it's much like Muslims. If you're born in that area, then you consider yourself that because you're born there, but it's not a race. So does that make sense? Sometimes you can say, I'm Hindu because I'm from Nepal, when really you may not actually be. You're just kind of born into that religious system.
All right, so Hindus are into reincarnation. Is that just constant? Just die, live, die, live, die, live?
And that's also why then they go to the river and they'll burn the bodies.
Ooh.
And then they take the ashes and spread them in the river. And so the river apparently leads to the holy city or holy place, eternal life. So that's why you'll see, if you go to one of the Hindu temples there in Nepal, you'll see them, live cremations, monkeys are everywhere, and they're burning the bodies, putting the ashes in the river to try to appease and get someone to eternal life. It's sobering and it's very sad.
Eternal life, or just the next life?
Maybe the next life, yeah. I'm not an expert at it, how they would
believe,
word it.
and this may be more Buddhist than Hindu, but I believe there is an ultimate state of what they call nirvana, or where your spirit is ultimately free. The way I understand it, and again, I don't know if this is more Buddhist or Hindu, the reincarnation aspect keeps us bound to the flesh, which is somewhat negative, right? That they want to move up, kind of a ladder, as you will, to escape the body. In fact, this is kind of funny. My hobby's board games, and all of us know that Chutes and Ladders, right? The game Chutes and Ladders. This was originally a tool used by Hindu monks to teach young kids about reincarnation and about moving up into the eternal life.
Is it kind of like Mormons, that they think they can actually become a god and then they are free of their earthly flesh?
They become, it's not like Mormonism, really. I mean, it's different, but they do progress, right? They go up. Like, the way I understand it is even like human beings are on one particular level, but certain animals are higher. They have a lot of reverence, as you talked about, for cows, because that cow could be a distant relative of yours that's moving through the karma stage. You don't stay a human the whole time. You can be all kinds of different things.
And we met some, obviously, talked to them. Many of the nationals were former Hindus, so we didn't spend a lot of time discussing that religion, to be honest with you. We were there to really mobilize the pastors, and then the villages that had maybe one or two believers or one believing family, we'd go there and we'd want to mobilize them to reach other villages. And so I'm not a Hindu expert, but what I did go for was to say, what can we do as believers to reach people with the gospel? And that was what's exciting, because it's happening in the middle of pretty intense persecution, more so in India than Nepal, by the way.
All right, before I want to get to the persecution, but you say nationalists, and you're a nationalist.
No, I'm not.
No.
I would be a national in America. So just like America accepts the responsibility to reach its own country.
Okay. So
a national would be an Asian pastor who is a citizen of Nepal.
Okay.
Or a citizen of India who lives there.
Native might be another word.
Yeah, maybe both words work. Like Timur, he's going back to the country he's from. He's already a citizen there, and he'll be a church planter in that Asian city. He'll be able to do that much better than I can.
Right.
Does that make sense? So we would call that a national or a native pastor.
All right. Todd Stiles is our guest. First Family Church in Ankeny, 8:30 and 10:30 on Sunday mornings. They also have a church plant in Bondurant, and those services are at 10 o'clock in the morning at Morris Elementary. And you're going to have a plant later this year in, what was the name of that town in Utah?
Gunnison?
Gunnison. Okay.
That's right, yeah.
By the way, I just absolutely loved that couple.
Joe and Amy are great, aren't they?
Yeah,
they are.
I don't know if he realizes it, but she wears the pants in that family.
The mics are on. I'm just saying.
I'm serious. Oh, are the mic's on? I'm sorry.
We haven't gone to break
you
yet.
Want a mic on and off, right? You said whatever's going on, just let it play.
Yeah. All right, so you say there's a lot of persecution there. Persecution of whom?
Well, let's just focus on India for a minute. I know that in 2015, the government itself increased persecution of Christians 20%. Now, I don't know what the baseline of that is, but that's a good bit.
Yeah.
And so we were meeting people that, would say to us, hey, last month they came in to check out what we were doing, tried to shut us down, said we can't continue to meet with the Bible, we can't continue to preach the gospel. So out of those 15, then, folks who said we're willing to go out to other villages, you might have a third of them who won't come back anymore. I mean, you begin to see the New Testament in a way that you don't read it in America. So when James talks about if you can save someone from straying, then you realize, it's not talking about a guy that changes churches in America.
Right.
We're talking about people who, because of persecution, which James has written in that time frame, they decide to actually not identify with Christ's body. They're trying to distance themselves from the very body that brings the persecution. James, he says, hey, we should pray for them and reach out to them. And if we can bring them back, we save a soul from death. And you just begin to see the New Testament in an arena perhaps like it was actually written. We met folks who, were beat up. One guy went to a Muslim village. No believers began to herald the gospel. 5 Muslim men got saved. That caused a stir in the city, so other Muslim men came and said, we're going to hurt you if you preach again. The 5 who got saved said, well, we'll actually protect him. They began to be his security guards, and he continued to preach the gospel, even amidst many threats. And so meeting these people live and in person, it just begins to give you a sense of a global sense of God's family that I think is very healthy. And one of the weaknesses of the American church is we don't have a global sense of God's family. We have a Western sense of God's family.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's sin. I don't think it's intentional sometimes, but it is healthy to see the world which God loves so much and gave his son to die for.
All right, Pastor Todd Stiles is here. First Family Church, Ankeny, 8:30, 10:30, Bondurant, 10 in the morning at Morris, and coming soon to Gunnison, Utah. 244-0077. If you've got questions for Pastor Todd, you're welcome to call us, or you can text him to the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line at 809-0993. Coming up next, more on persecution in those worlds, our world.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 100 make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
.438, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Top of the hour, Safe Work News, and then it's Ask Hank, the Bible Answer Man, at 1-888-ASK-HANK. I know it's early, but if you really want to get in and you want to ask Hank a question, you need to get on the line now. This is a national, international, live show from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time. So it's 3 to 4 out in California. It's 6 to 7. It's all drive time in the United States, and there are people on the internet listening around the world. So if you have a question to ask Hank, it's free. I mean, I'm assuming you're going to use your cell phone, so there's no long-distance charges. Get on the phone now, 1-888-ASK-HANK. And that's how you can be on Hank's show between the 5 and 6 o'clock hour here on The Truth, 99.3. All right. My special guest today is Pastor Todd Stiles, who is the lead pastor at First Family Church in Ankeny. 8:30 and 10:30 are their services. In Bondurant, they have 10 o'clock services at Morris Elementary, and coming soon to Gunnison, Utah, with one of their church plants. And my co-host, Chris Roloff, has a question for Pastor Stiles.
Thanks, Mac. I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome, Chris. Thank you for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
No, it really is my pleasure.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys never stop.
It's just hilarious. This is why I thank God that he doesn't come in as early as I do, because I don't know that I'd get anything done. We just goof around too much. Love having Mac here. But no, in all seriousness, one of the things that you said that I was really pleased with is, you were over there in India, in Nepal, and you even admitted you're not an expert on Hindus or Buddhists. And something's come to my attention, and this, I want to hear your opinion on this, that when we share the gospel, or we desire to see someone come to faith that has a worldview and a religion that's other than ours, I was kind of always brought up that we first have to address their religion and tear their religion down. And it's come to my attention just recently that maybe that's a complete waste of time. That maybe it actually just doesn't matter what the specifics of what the other person believes. Maybe they just need to hear about Jesus because they never have before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's true both domestically and in terms of international missions? Do we need to focus just on the gospel instead of trying to understand the other person's worldview and religion?
So I would try to avoid the pendulum shift to the other side where we say, well, what they are thinking and believing doesn't matter at all. I would avoid that.
Okay.
But I would admit and say to you, I would embrace with you that the power to salvation is the gospel. Romans 1:16, and throughout the New Testament, the preaching of the gospel is the divine ordained means by which God saves people.
Right.
So do we begin a relationship by asking about them? Could that be one of the things God uses to increase a conversation? Yes, but no salvific work will happen by our own good intentions to understand their religion. At some point, our separation from God by sin and Christ's satisfactory mediation of that through his death has to come into play. Only then will the gospel open eyes, regeneration occur, conversion happen, adoption take place. Only then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But I don't want to suddenly say, well, we're not going to get to know people. Let's just go yell at them and preach at them. I think that could be a pendulum shift that we're not after.
Right. Well, do you think, as an example, arguing with people, I think that kind of tends to come up. So let's say, as I consider, I'm taking a class right now at our church on how to understand Islam and how to potentially evangelize or preach the gospel to Muslim people. And as I think about that was where this started to come up, is maybe I'm overthinking what Muslims believe. Let me help you understand what you believe. I don't think I need to have that conversation because a moderate Muslim or a Muslim who doesn't really have a strong understanding of their faith, my opinion would be that if I begin to challenge what they believe, they're going to dig in their heels. They're going to fight more. They're going to push back more.
Just like you would if someone came at you.
Absolutely. You're exactly right, Todd. That's exactly what I thought, was if someone did that to me, like if an atheist came to me and said, you shouldn't be a Christian anymore because Christians believe this, they believe this, they believe this, I would instantly say, no, we don't, and start fighting with them about that. If an atheist wanted me to leave the Christian faith, he should love me, he should care for me, he should serve me, he should show me that that's a better way. And I think Christians should do the same thing, that instead of just focusing on tearing down someone else's religion, we should just show them the better way.
And I think it's important to distinguish between debating and questioning. One of my favorite books is called Questioning Evangelism.
Ooh.
And is a really good book that directly speaks to just how to engage conversations with questions of interest. You never debate them. You're not affirming them. You're just saying, oh, that's interesting. And then you ask another question, but they're opening up. And then you depend on the Spirit for timing about further conversation. But often we try to debate, like you said, we shouldn't. We should, though, question and just to show interest. I think that's very appropriate, with the idea being that as God leads us, the gospel is what opens hearts and brings light to eyes.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Pastor Todd.
Pastor Todd Stiles is my guest. He's the lead pastor at First Family Church in Ankeny. Services 8:30 and 10:30 on Sunday. Also at 10 a.m. in Bondurant at Morris Elementary School. He just got back from a mission trip to Nepal and is talking about some of the stuff that they saw over there. 1.4% of the 9 billion people?
I don't know the population of, in India it's over 1 billion.
Over 1 billion.
Yeah, they have about 5th or 6th. They have 15-20% of the world's population lives in India.
Okay.
So.
And 1.4% of them are Christian, 10.7% of them are Buddhist, and 87%, 97.
I think that's actually Nepal stats you're reading.
It's Nepal, right.
Oh, that's Nepal. All
right.
right.
And they have Islam at 4%.
4% at Islam. All right.
Let me say this about Nepal, though. This is interesting. In Nepal, most missiologists will tell you.
Whoa, back up. A who?
Would be like someone who studies missions.
Okay.
They would tell you that Nepal right now is experiencing the greatest growth on the planet when it comes to Christians and church planting, that the explosion there is phenomenal, and that village after village are seeing people come to Christ and establishing churches. And so they're kind of known right now as the global hotspot when it comes to conversions and discipleship. It's amazing, which I think is strategic, because if Nepal can be seriously, we'll use the word reached, that's the best way into parts of India.
Do you think part of that is because they're close to China and China has a booming Christian?
It may be, yeah. I don't know if I know why, but I know China, again, I think more is happening than less, to be frank with you. And I think in America, I don't know if it's intentional, but we're fed information that I think sometimes breeds guilt to make us either give more or go more. And by the way, I'm a huge proponent of the Great Commission, but not from faulty motives. And the truth is, there are legitimately grand things happening in China, have been for decades, the same as in Nepal. And God is doing spectacular things with people who live in those countries. You know, the great white hope isn't always the answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think maybe we realized that more than ever in this last visit. Like, wow, there are godly natives doing the work. Let's celebrate that.
Pastor Todd, you said something in an earlier segment that I thought was really fascinating. I picked up on it, that when you went over there to Nepal, you didn't go over there to find out what they need financially to just write a check and give it to them, but you went over there to empower them, not to, what was the word you used?
Well, you know, I guess there are things you can do to help them with some of those social issues, but giving someone money or paying a pastor who's a native probably hurts more than helps in the long run. They have to learn how to sustain themselves, how to build a church community, how to donate and give to that to support their ministries if they choose to. Those are things they've got to learn. I think empower and mobilize that body.
Do you think that's Do you think that's the new wave of sort of missions work from the West, sort of from the established sort of church in the West, to go and really build up leaders there and teach them how to be self-sustaining and have stable ministries that are independent? Do you think that's
I don't
part
know
of the wave
if that's
of
the
missions?
new wave. I don't know. I'm not experienced enough to answer that question.
Sure.
I've been responsible for one body and personally for my family too and our kids. And I just think it's important when Mac asked me to come in, I just want to share that sometimes we can have a very limited perspective and we see things only in a Western way. And I think I'm just sensing, there's a global work happening. And let's celebrate that. Let's be thankful God is moving, at least in those two countries.
Yeah.
And I, for one, was amazed. I was mainly in northern India. I was amazed. Matt, you got to interrupt here? I'm sorry.
And we'll come back in just a few minutes. Pastor Todd Stiles is our guest from First Family Church in Ankeny. We're coming back. I want to talk a little bit about the language barrier and how do you overcome that on a mission. That's next, live here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Bible Answer Man, Hank. 1-888-ASK-HANK. 1-888-ASK-HANK. Call in now and question in there for him. Pastor Todd Stiles is here, First Family Church in Ankeny, and you were about to tell me what amazed you.
Yes, I was amazed at the amount of people, Christians in North India, excited to move to new villages where there apparently were no believers. Here these native Indians are, or Asians, and they're going to move there for the express purpose of trying to plant and witness and make one disciple so that they can then make another one. I mean, there is a good work happening there. And I'm not saying that there's not a need for maybe Westerners to move there initially, but it seems like a Westerner should take the model that we're a catalyst in an area where there's nothing happening, and then once the nationals get it, we'll extract ourselves. I think that's probably where I'm at personally. Just like, you know what, that seems to be a better model right now than landing in a country for 10 years at $80,000 a month for a Westerner. That's a lot of resource money just to have someone there who doesn't know the language very well initially. It takes 4 to 5 years to even get embedded. So those are questions I have. I don't have all the answers. And there's always exceptions, true?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But it's just, I'm just so, that was the thing I came away with. More is happening than less. And that's what I want you to hear out of this. More is happening than less. God is on the move.
It's very encouraging. And Pastor Todd, I mentioned this to you in the break that the denomination that I've been a part of for a very long time, the Presbyterian Church in America, the PCA, our international missions effort, the gentleman who goes to Nepal that represents our denomination over there and work with some seminaries and churches in that area, goes a lot. He lives here in central Iowa, and he's shared stories very similar to what you had said earlier about how the national people in that area, the gospel is coming to them. They are strong. And there's a real concerted effort I see within this mission to the world, the missions organization for the PCA, to be strategic about how they support pastors in that area so that they don't just underwrite everything they do and fund everything they do so these pastors can just kind of just do the ministry, because they tend to, what his experience has been is that sometimes those pastors disengage from their culture. Whereas the pastors who still have to work and live and function within the community, their witness is expanded because they're being more than just a spiritual light. They're being a physical light because they're still working in the community. They still are being strong at their agrarian knowledge. They're still using those skills. And then the gospel gives them a love to serve their neighbor in a way that they didn't have before.
Todd Stiles is our guest from First Family Church, Ankeny, 8:30 and 10:30, Bondurant, 10 a.m., and that's at Morris Elementary School. What's the language?
Hindi. And in Nepal, I guess it'd be Nepali.
All right.
Nepalese, I'm not sure how you say it, but...
Can you speak it?
No. I can say one word. Tika, which means okay.
Tika.
It's T-E-E-K, and then
I would recommend you
or something.
I would recommend you also learn no. So you have an interpreter then the whole time?
Yes.
But
most of those folks over there are bilingual. Now, maybe not in the villages, but in the cities, you'll find a lot. In fact, most of the world's bilingual, guys. Let's be honest. Most Americans are the only folks who don't speak two languages.
Really?
Right.
Yeah. So you can find English-speaking Asians and Indians pretty easily.
Now, when you say city and village is dirt floors, cabins.
Well, they'll lay a lot of mats out.
Okay.
You'll take your shoes off so you don't walk on the mat. But a lot of times it may be on a concrete floor or on the dirt. It varies, you know.
Are there any houses like there are in Ankeny?
No.
No.
Not that I saw. Remember, I limited experience, not a whole lot of time there. But you're talking like a completely different environment.
Like a homeless camp.
Well, they range. You might go to might be a road that's partly paved, partly dirt, and there might be a building. Buildings surround it. It's really crowded, and they're 5 stories high. Then there's one that's a little shop, and people live wherever they can. There's windows. They're real narrow. And then there may be a slum with just sheets and cardboard holding the walls up.
Now, when these Nepalese,
I think that's what they're called.
Natives.
Okay, yeah.
First hear about Jesus, is there anything to compare it to? Or are they hearing for the very first time that you can spend eternity with your Creator, and it's just through following this one human being.
Yeah. I'm very limited. We had a few environments that were evangelistic in nature with the local pastors. I don't know how to answer that, Mac. I don't know what they're thinking as they hear the gospel. I don't know if they're comparing it to something. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good question. I know that repentance and faith are necessary for salvation. And so when we had a girl come to us in one of our services, and she says, I'm demon-possessed, and I want to be. So at that point, you engage in a conversation about, okay, what has to be said, and it's probably on the spot. It helps that verse come to mind when Christ told the disciples, you'll know in that hour what to say.
Okay.
I mean, there's just moments where you're like, Holy Spirit, I need help,
Share with us one of the most amazing moments that you'll just never forget.
So we walked through a slum. That's what the Indian word is for it, the Asian word. And it's, you've seen it maybe on like Slumdog Millionaire, those kind of movies. You've seen pictures of that. It's that and worse. We get to the end of that, and there's a building. There's a church in there, and it's nice. You go up the steps. They've got a stage and some lights. It looks like maybe a smaller American version. I was kind of shocked, like, wow, what's this doing here? I talked to the pastor. He says, well, this building came to us by God's sovereign grace. I said, what does that mean? He said, we were meeting in just an old, rundown area of the slum in some kind of concrete or wood structure. He didn't say exactly. He said, but the persecution got intense, and they burned everything we had. We were left without a place to meet, so we were going to gather outside, and within a few months, somehow we got this building. He didn't tell me how or have you paid. He didn't say. He said, but we got this building. He said, so now we have a better place, and we're able to provide ministry to all the kids in the slum area every single day. So the pastor lives in the church building, and every day the kids from the slum area just come right down the dirt road, and they hang out with the people at the church.
Yeah, this isn't about getting people coming to an hour-long service one day a week, is it?
They have their services, but they have 2.5-hour-long services. They do twice on Sunday. One's the training of the national pastors, the other's the church service. But no, the kids just show up there at the building because it's safe, it's a little cleaner, and they have interaction with all these folks who are Christians. Man, that was amazing to me that the church didn't run from their immediate context.
Yeah.
That church said, our first mission is the slum right next to us. And I think that's very biblical. Jesus said, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, then the earth, uttermost parts of the earth. And there's a church in India following that model. It's not just us.
Yeah.
I was just so encouraged by that. They embraced that.
I want to hear more about this. I am more and more fascinated about how Christianity is spreading to other parts of the world. Just wondering if maybe that's a place for some American Christians to go, because it isn't much fun here anymore.
And here's what I would say to that, because that's a good question. Now, do you go as a missionary, and then what do you do? If you're going to go, get a job and live over there and be part of their culture.
Okay.
That's what if God's called you to that. Don't think you have to necessarily raise support.
Church.
Yeah, just move over there and get a job.
All right, Pastor Todd Stiles from First Family Church, 8:30 and 10:30 on Sundays in Ankeny and 10 a.m. at Morris Elementary in Bondurant. We thank you for being here. Hank, the Bible Answer Man, is next. You know what I'm going to ask you. Have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it? Why not? Make sure you forgive someone that you've been longing to forgive, because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.